Two French centers will be available in this year's draft. Towards the bottom, let's talk about them. Let's start off with Maxime Raynaud out of France, 22-year-old. He is 7 feet tall in socks, 7'1" with shoes on, 236-pound center out of Stanford. Played all 4 years, had an incredible senior year, averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, shot 46% from the field, 36% from three. I watched video on this young man, and honestly, he's on my list of new favorite players right now. I'm not sure if it was just complete domination because he was a senior, but the stuff I saw him doing on the floor, windmill dunks, just the aggression that he played with, the high motor, and he plays like he knows that he's the best player on the basketball floor, and I love that. But he is really skilled, man, and so I'm really surprised that he's in the lower tier of this.
Yeah, I mean, super interesting player, and just before digging into him and the other guy we'll talk about, I think we've talked a little bit here on the show about, do the Bulls need a rim-rolling lob catcher for Josh Giddey in pick and roll? Or do they need a floor spacer to open up those driving lanes? Or do they need somebody who can really protect the rim at a high level, and that's kind of their primary skill set? Raynaud is someone who I think has a more dynamic offensive range of skills. We'll talk about some of the guys that are more of the lob catcher, rim protectors. Raynaud is not really that guy. He is a true 7 feet tall, as you mentioned. He measured over 7 feet without shoes at the combine, which was really great to see with the plus wingspan, 7 foot 1.25 inch. But he also had a 31.5 inch vertical. So it's not like he's completely immobile either. And that's really the thing that stands out to me when you watch his film, is that for a guy that's that big, he's quite fluid and he really moves well, both with the basketball, attacking closeouts, driving. He has a good face-up game. He's a good back-to-the-basket game, but I just like his mobility. And although he wasn't a great defensive player in college, I think that mobility will help him at the NBA level, where he's going to be able to, at the very least, contain a little bit in pick and roll. Probably going to be a drop coverage big, but might be able to get out to the point of attack and up to touch on screens, which I think gives him a little bit more versatility there. Again, not a premier shot blocker, although he did block a bunch of shots towards the end of his college career. 4.6 block rate is pretty low, but he blocked 25 shots in the final 11 games of his college career. So this is a guy who, in some mock drafts, is going in like the early second round. Some people have him like as a late lottery pick. I think he probably, the truth is somewhere in the middle. He's going to be in the high to mid 20s. And, I think if they are looking to trade down and find a guy who, as we've talked about, like Arturas wants a dynamic player who can walk into trail threes and attack closeouts and keep the ball moving side to side and be an offensive hub. I don't think that Raynaud is like quite as polished as a guy like Vooch there, but he has some of those same skill sets. And I think that's why he makes sense for what Arturas, it seems from the outside in, looking at what he would be interested in.
Yeah, no, it makes all the sense in where he wants someone who could come in and immediately contribute. And I think that's one of the things that, just watching film on this young man, that he will absolutely do. One, the confidence is off the charts. Like, that dude really believes in his game. I think he's an NBA player. Like, when I watch him play, I think his game transitions very well to the NBA. You mentioned the shooting. He'll be a pick and pop threat all day long. If you can't leave him, and he's sneaky enough where you'll forget about him at the 3-point line, and he'll get that shot off on you, man, and he'll score for sure. But I really like that young guy. I think he's good. I think if this was a couple years back, he would be much higher on the list, man. But I think, he's getting the raw end of the deal, I guess, for the age and for the 4 years in college. But I really, really like his game. Of course, like you said, he's got stuff to work on as far as his defense. Doesn't really have a post game either or anything like that. But overall, I think the gentleman is really solid.
A couple more things on him before we dive into the next guy. He, to me, and I'm pulling this from our NBA draft coverage guide for diehards. So go sign up to be a diehard, and you can take a look at more of our notes here. But just for our purposes now, 37% on 175 catch and shoot 3-point attempts this year. Okay, so that's really good. 33% when guarded, 49% when open. So I do think he is like a legit shooter, even though the overall percentage from three was only just a tick under 35%. I do think he's going to be a legit shooter at the NBA level. We mentioned the mobility and the ball skills. I think for a guy that size, to be able to attack closeouts and play, with the ball on the floor, I think is really exciting. But to your point, Dave, a little bit older, 22 on draft night. This is a guy who had a later development curve where you typically start to see guys be more productive as they get older. And that, I think, is a little bit concerning. So to me, that's why he might slide down. And that's why if the Bulls are looking to trade down and pick up a couple of assets, maybe he's a guy that they could take in the early to mid 20s. And now you take a swing on a guy who could be that center of the future, give you the things that you want offensively, and not, throw a really premium lottery pick asset at him.
True. All right, we're taking a look at the 22-year-old from France. Let's take a look at the teenager from France, Joan Beringer. Am I saying that right?
I think so. Beringer.
Okay. Do you want to put the stank on it correctly? I've seen him listed from 6'9" to 6'11", 7'3" wingspan, which is always great. 237 pounds. What he offers is that rim protection for sure. He's really good in transition. He's more of a transition kind of big. And also got that really, really, really high motor. I know Will Perdue hates that, but it's a thing, especially for the young guys. And I really appreciate about them. But I look at him, Will, definitely as a project because he definitely has a lot of flaws, which I could understand why he would be a late first rounder or even an early second rounder.
Yeah, and he is, on the other end of the spectrum in terms of big archetypes, right? He's not a shooter. He's not dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's going to set screens. He's going to dive hard to the basket. He's going to jump and catch lobs above the rim. And I think that could be a really good fit for a point guard like Giddey, who needs help getting downhill in terms of creating that space. And if you have a lob catcher that can really put that vertical gravity pressure onto opposing bigs, the big can't leave him to go after that lob. And that opens up some more driving space for Giddey. So I do think that could work, but he does not have that three-point shooting component, but very athletic, a very good rim protector, and he's 3.5 years younger than Raynaud. So this is a guy who's much more raw, much more like plays within a box. We've talked about that with guys like Julian Phillips, and I think he can come in, play that role, and maybe you expand some things out later on in his career. Maybe he develops kind of like a pick and pop or an easy trail three to kind of make his game a little bit more dynamic. But this is a guy who's going to play really hard, get after it on both ends of the court and catch lobs. And I think that could be a really valuable tool to help Giddey out.
Sure, he's getting by on the athleticism and things like that, but he really doesn't have a bag yet, no real post game or anything. Good defensive versatility also, but he definitely gets in foul trouble and stuff like that. And the three-point shooting, I believe it was 29%. Three-point shooting for him. So he's got a lot of stuff to work on, but definitely has potential to really, truly be something in his draft if a team wants to take a real flyer on him. And we'll see if the Bulls are looking at him and paying attention.
And I think if we're doing player comps for him, we said this on the show, but for Raynaud, I would say he's kind of similar to on the spectrum of like Santi Aldama to Vooch, where he's more dynamic with the ball in his hands. He could shoot a little bit more. Raynaud, as we have in our draft guide here, I believe Derek did this one, but Nerlens Noel, Clint Capella type, where he's going to be catching lobs and pretty much playing in that box. So let us know what you guys think about what type of center the Bulls need to go after in the draft, if these guys are worth a pick, if they can move down, or if they're worth a reach at 12.
We'll see. Cedric Howard. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. CHGO Bulls.